What's up, YouTube? We're three simple men making our way through the galaxy. We are back this week for the conclusion of the Acolyte. You know me, it's Tom, it's Ryan and Mike. There's a lot to unpack on this episode. Seeing what we've seen, I can understand some of the controversy, how the controversy that this show has, like how some people wanted it canceled or how people wanted it decanonized, because we've seen Yoda, and I believe it would be Darth Plagueis in that cave.
We definitely see a Mun. He's not technically identified, but yes,
Plagueis, but that's,
leave outside of it, it is confirmed that it is Plagueis.
like I said, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, I didn't mind this show. I mean, if anything, you could have said like, all right, well, this could have been Plagueis's attempt at creating life and how it failed, where you can continue with the story where the Force just creates life itself with Anakin and continue enforcing that if you wanted to, but that's just me.
I
What's that?
well, I feel like it makes sense that it's kind of like why he was pursuing May and then and Osha through, is because we know that we don't know much of the story, but we know some of it. And we know his obsession with trying to create life. So I could see how he's like, wow, they figured this out. I want to know more about it. So that's kind of why he's, there. But then, you know, assuming he's the stranger's now master. I don't know if he is. I mean, or if he
I mean,
just
there's
happened.
a lot of possibilities
Which is
on.
why I'm upset that this show unfortunately doesn't get more than the one season. And I do hope that some of these characters get, because just even the end setup, just to jump all the way to the end, where it's kind of like, we have all our characters are gone except for arguably like the evil ones. So we get this, you know, uh Vanestra being like, "Oh, we're gonna track down my old apprentice who turned to the dark side." And after she just went and did an entire cover up, threw her good buddy Soul under the bus, said he murdered all the people, he killed himself, there's nothing else to investigate. But then she's like, "We're gonna find this guy," and like the possibility of what that could have been, like another, some sort of future venture. Again, I hope we see the characters again. I hope we get more Plagueis. I really hope we get more of the Stranger in something, in some sort of, maybe in a different movie or another story or another, nothing on his own. I mean, I'd love to have something for him on his own too, but I thought he was great, and I really thought in this really summed up like some amazing fight scenes. I really love the fight scenes in this.
Yeah, I probably would have gave the show another chance with it because obviously with everything that happened in this last episode with the cover up, I mean, kind of falls back to that last episode of what you're doing is going to plague the Jedi throughout the galaxy. So we'll see like more of like the politics of like, would the Senate keep up the Jedi being unchecked and whatnot, and just to see how like Osha and the Stranger train with one another and see like, what are they going to do now? They're going to like, I mean, they've been secret, so like no one knows that it's the two of them other than Venestra, but they have no way of tracking them now. So I've, despite all the controversy that happened, I probably would have gave the show another chance.
I would have said maybe one more season because I would have loved a little bit more Jedi cover-ups. I wanted to slowly build into this whole, they're politicized with the Republic senators and all that stuff. They're having internal affairs. They're doing cover-ups. The slow build up of the distrust between the people of the Republic, of the galaxy, and the Jedi.
And not to mention like getting some more of that Jedi lore too, because we never really see the Jedi High Council until Yoda at the very end. So it'll be interesting to see like who else is on the Jedi High Council and what that side of it was like. I mean, definitely like a golden opportunity with the High Republic to explore all of that, but we don't really get enough of it.
And Weirdly enough, we
even know what
saw.
Vanessa, sorry, we don't even know what Vanessa tells Yoda. Like, does he now know that there is this evil dark? Like, does he know the truth, or does she just say, "Hey, I think my apprentice might be a lot like I've, what does she tell him? Is she gonna lie to him? Does she read him in on everything? I don't know. We might never find out."
I mean, at this point, it's the Jedi really trying to cover their ass. I mean, you gotta technically, she isn't wrong because Soul did kind of kill her mother. He kind of instigated by investigating, even though Corbin really wanted to just go home. I think he was really the catalyst of everything that transpired. But Soul later on let his emotions and his attachments get to the better of him. Also, we see him just grab a bunch of Jedi Knights and then just. It's like you're almost assembling an army. It's like if you wanted to keep this low maintained, just a group, not like a whole squadron, not a whole like a dozen Jedi Knights coming out.
And it's like, let's keep this under wraps, gather as many knights as you can. So it's like, yeah, just they could probably done it with a smaller task force than what they assembled.
Yeah, but they don't know, right? They all just showed up and saw a dead soul.
Mhm.
They don't and found this girl, so they don't,
And then
that
she
it
was
was gonna
smart enough to
survive
not
what she
reveal
said.
anything because she's like, she sensed her apprentice and the twins, and like, I know where they are. And then he let his guard down for 2 seconds because
Get the helmet off. His
she sensed
Magneto.
like, and she was very quiet about it too, like not saying it out loud to the other Jedi. It's like, you're alive, and that's when it's like, oh crap, get the helmet on. You would think with the army that they had and the perimeter that they were trying to set up, he was very stealthy, and he was just looking on. Then she looks up to his viewpoint too late, and
So it kind of answered one question why he had the helmet. It's like we saw it was resistant to lightsabers, but I guess now there was more of a meaning towards it. Like he didn't want to let his former master know that he survived.
Yeah, definitely right. I kind of slipped in and called it a Magneto helmet, but it seemed
I
like
was
that
thinking the same
was
thing.
the type of helmet that like blocks the force. Um,
because like even like in that episode 5 when they had the fight, it's like, are you trying to read my mind?
yeah.
You could tell there, but yeah, to your point, Tom, it's more of like hide himself from everyone, but also to hide himself from his master or former master, I should say.
We do get a lot of other really cool kind of expansion on the force, and I guess we're going backwards a little, but the moment where Osha, no, sorry, May disarms Soul and throws the lightsaber and breaks the kyber crystal, exposing it. And then we get Osha, who picks up his lightsaber and cuts her hand on the kyber crystal, which we then see when she ignites it later on after force choking Soul to death, which we'll go back to talk about. Um, she like bleeds into the kyber crystal, so then when she ignites it, we see it change from uh blue to red, which I
I
think
think it's just the anger that happened was bleeding the Kyber crystal. It wasn't her blood itself. It was her anger, her hatred for the lies that she's been led, which I think led to Crystal, not her actual blood.
I
Yeah,
thought it was a combination of both, though. No, I thought the blood had to have something I mean, because they had. Why would they have the kyber crystal sticking out and cutting her if that wasn't part of the bleeding of a kyber crystal?
yeah, we'll have to check the replay on that because yeah, I'm with Tom on this one. Just the anger, like just everything, just now she knows the truth. Soul lied about everything that happened, couldn't tell her, couldn't confess to the Jedi, and just I mean, it also goes to that point about like killing. The whole point of Chimera's trial was to kill a Jedi without a weapon. Here we are thinking May's going to be the one to do it, but just unfortunately with the Force, she wasn't able to see that it was really her that was doing it. And I think just mainly because of that, the fear, the anger, all the emotions of the dark side, what ultimately bled the crystal. And then I think this is the first time in live action we've ever seen that moment happen where a kyber crystal is bled.
So, and
Not
I
just
mean,
replay to see
have they talked about it in anything else and like what the
I mean,
process is in
if you
Kyber
read like
Crystal? I know in the books, right?
if you read like a Darth Vader comic book, it's when the young days of Vader in the suit, he kills a Jedi and takes his lightsaber, and Palpatine's order to him is to bleed the crystal. That's what I usually think of when I hear the word term bleeding the crystal. That's what I think of. It's just pretty much use your pain, use your anger, your hatred, and just turn that crystal red.
I always assumed it meant adding blood to the crystal. I don't know. Sound off in the comments, people.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Um, we do get a little earlier on when when May escapes Soul, uh, which took me back. She looks at him and she says, "I'll see," and this is my quote. She says, "See you in hell, Jedi."
Kind of weird because we're talking about a universe where there's like I always thought there was no heaven or hell. It was just a force.
So that it struck me as it has in the past, and so much so that it actually struck Mike back in our episode 24 when we watched Clone Wars Rookies, and right before Cut Up, or right after Cut Up gets eaten by one of the eels, Heavy says, "What the hell was that?" And Mike actually brought that up in one of our earlier episodes. So uh, this is now the second time that we've heard hell in this universe, and to stop any critics or people that might say, "Oh, well, it's stupid. It shouldn't have been written in here. It shouldn't have been used." I remembered it's also used in Empire Strikes Back by Han Solo when he says he's leaving to find Luke at Hoth, and the other guard says, "Oh, you'll freeze to death out there," and he says, "Well, then I'll see you in hell," as the door shuts. So hell exists in Star Wars. I mean,
Apparently.
word at least exists.
Mhm.
It's got to at this point. I mean, it's now through. There's at least three known uses of the term. Maybe it's not, exactly the biblical. It definitely means something like not a great place. So who knows? But yeah, it is striking though, Tom. Like I'm with you, and so was Mike back in episode 24 because he noticed it then. And yeah, as soon as you hear it, you're kind of like, oh, why are they saying hell? And it's
Imagine
not
if it
that
was
often.
hell in Star Wars. Like, imagine just Anakin going to hell, and it's just like, what's my punishment? It's like, oh, you're gonna have endless waves of younglings that want to kill you. You have to kill them first. It's round one, round two, round three. Oh, you don't stop. It's infinite, and the more you kill, the more come at you.
Yeah. So again, it was interesting though, and it's I could see how people might complain. I know there's a lot of complaints about this series, but I could see how they could complain like, oh, the writing, like, oh, why would you say that? The hell wouldn't exist, but it's been used. And so it's just interesting, and
Well, I mean, let's get back into when the senator shows up to the Jedi Council, and it's like, what are you doing? And then you see the criticism that he's given to the Jedi. They're like, you guys are like a bunch of monks practicing your religion. And then he says to her, backhandedly insults her in a way where it's just like, what is it that you always say? Oh, may the force be with you. Like as
Yeah.
a way of he's saying like we're tired of the Jedi. We're really like, what's your purpose? What's your point anymore? In a way, it's like, would that be unthreading the needle of the trust of the Jedi and the Republic? Who actually knows? But we see that's a very intense conversation between the two of them.
Yeah, because like first it's like, oh yeah, it's an internal investigation, or like Vanessa was saying, she's has the authority to act independently, then let it slip that multiple Jedi were killed. So yeah, he unfortunately for the senator, yeah, he doesn't think the Jedi are above the law, and we just see that they need to be reined in. And it's like, well, I'm going to put you in front of a tribunal. And unfortunately, yeah, we see Vanessa just covering it up and just like, yeah, Soul is that guy here. Like, well, it's true, but it's just unfortunately she's really using it to cover her butt, given that her apprentice is alive. He did most of the killing, so
Yeah.
um
And again, it's a bummer we won't get more, but and I blame it on a lot of things, but a big part of it too is also Disney's fault and these big companies that just, throw this stuff out now so quickly and they don't give it a chance. Back in the day, not even that long ago, when you just had network television, like networks had to take a chance.
Disney itself, it's like a it's like a two-sided coin where it's just like you don't promote it enough where you don't let people have an open mind and give it a chance. But at the same time, if you're Disney, all you're banking on is Star Wars, Marvel, all the like those two main things. So you're trying to put out more and you're trying to rush it. And then maybe the writing is subpar, like a lot of people complain about this series or a couple of Marvel shows as well, because that's all you really have to bank on. Because you realize they're remember when Disney used to be actually more creative, like the original Disney movies growing up. It's like Lucky the Irish, all that stuff. There doesn't seem to be a sense of that anymore with Disney. It's just anything Star Wars, anything Marvel, live action remakes. You know, they're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch. So it feels like entertainment wise, creativity wise, it's gone down. Because we can actually say with the writers, like it kind of like Book of Boba Fett. It was really, and I hate saying it because I love the series so much, but Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. The writing was kind of, it felt rushed.
yeah, and whether it's 6 or 8 episodes, I mean, I get that's like where a lot of the streaming stuff, but yeah, I think they could have taken some more time to develop it, like get into different storylines. Because I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to see those other shows like have more.
It feels like as much as I like, uh, in Mandalorian, like when you do scenes like Luke Skywalker, then it's just like, well, people are gonna just be drawn away from Din Djarin, and now we're like a young Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, possibly Luke Skywalker, and then you got Ahsoka with Thrawn coming back. People are gonna start to like, are you slowly putting into like we've always talked about between canon and legends, heirs to the Empire, Thrawn, and all that stuff. It's just like when you do something like that, because because the Book of Boba Fett, it was more of like when you saw Din Djarin in it, it's like, well, now you just took away Boba Fett because he brought the Mandalorian in, and now people are like, all right, what's Din Djarin doing? He's got the dark saber, he's dealing with Mandalorians. So it's really when you rush it with Star Wars and anything really, uh, you kind of lose the focus on trying to make sure the writing is very good. That you can connect the story that makes sense. And sometimes people don't understand because maybe it's just like you're going one way, you're going a different way. If you don't really understand the whole Star Wars universe or Marvel universe, people are going to get lost and not really fully understand and maybe not want to watch anymore.
Shows need to go back to being 24 episodes too. The short seasons
Very
is
true.
like just it's crazy. It's like, and again, I think I've said it a bunch with this. Like at that point, like why not just make a movie? This didn't need to be a show. This could have been a film. I think if it was shortened, it would have been great. But alternatively, as Mike said, the opposite. If they made it a longer show and made it stretched out 24 episodes and had each, spend more time developing the characters, giving us attachments to the characters. I mean, now that we have this whole season, was anyone really upset when anyone died? Even Soul at the end, I'm like, felt maybe he was the one death that I was kind of like, oh, that one actually hurt a little. But everybody else dying, it was just kind of like, like I felt like I just didn't get attached to any of the characters.
I mean, realistically speaking, that's not far off because we aren't really, like you said, we're not invested in all those. when we saw Jackie and all them die, it's like we knew little of them, we knew them, but we didn't know much about them. We weren't really invested in them. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like
if they did more episodes, we could have gotten an episode of like young-ish Osha training to be a Jedi with like young Yord because they knew each other. Like we could have gotten a whole episode on that. We could have gotten an episode of Jackie joining and like what happened there and how that happened and how, her being found as a youngling. We could have gotten more episodes of like, they could have they we could have even gotten an episode of Venestra once the reveal training with some more actual background as opposed to them just telling us like her relationship with her former apprentice. Like they could have spread it out more and given us a lot more story in the 24 in not even 24, even 12 episodes, 15
13,
episodes,
14 episodes, you could have
do a little
answered
bit
a few more
more
questions.
and
And
focus
that's
a little
why,
bit more on like character, I mean, yeah.
because at this
A New Hope does such a good job. That film does such a good job with you actually feeling bad with the death scene in that. And I won't say it just in case anybody hasn't watched, but a character dies about halfway through A New Hope, and it's upsetting. Like it's you see the other characters react, and even in this, the characters didn't react to the deaths. Like, it was just like just nobody really seemed too upset. And I think that also reflects how the viewer watches it. And watching it a second time, it's just like, yeah, ooh, wow, those were crazy death scenes. Like the Jackie 3 whole thing is like nuts. Um,
I
but
still
like
thought that was cool though, because it
it's a
showed
cool
that he
death.
had a little dagger and the lightsaber hilt.
Yeah. It's a cool death, but again, it's like they didn't give us enough time to get attached to the characters. And that's the same thing with the other Jedi that we're getting, right in the beginning. You get the Jedi's getting murdered and stuff. If they switched it around and we got a little more invested in the older Jedi that were being killed, and then maybe it would have been a little more. I think the most emotional thing in this entire series is when, um, in the first episode, when Osha, no, I keep messing him up. When May is about to kill the bartender and looks and sees that that he has a little baby or a little kid and then decides not to. That's like the one moment that I feel like was like, oh, like even like Soul killing the mother is a little emotional in front of the daughter, but I don't know. I just feel like it's something to do. I think the real problem is not necessarily the writing, not necessarily certainly not the actors. I think they really did a great job. Or the characters. I think they were cool characters. They just weren't developed enough. And I think at the end of the day, it falls strictly on the people making the decisions to, you know, have these be either short TV series versus a feature length film or a longer running series.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's definitely a lot going on with probably like production costs and the
Yeah, it
technology.
was very expensive to make, but like,
But yeah, I mean, just the way, just the whole, with some of these streaming series, like with the way they start off strong, then you go down like, you got like a 45-minute start, then it goes down to like 20, 30 minutes. And then once the big moment happens, it starts to get back up. So, I mean, there's got to be a little more consistency with that, with the streaming, but
You gotta really give it some time. I was actually watching something about Quentin Tarantino and how long he wanted to make Inglourious Bastards, but
mm,
he couldn't write the script until he felt comfortable it was going to be a great script. And then when he had that, it took him for a while to find the perfect actors, especially with Hans Landa, who was played by Christoph Waltz. Who,
mhm.
let me say this: if you've never seen a movie, if you watch it, the most authentic, truly, I think he was worse, like more spine chilling than Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List
Mhm.
because of
yeah,
how
yeah, he does a great job.
authentic he found the character, the actor who portrayed this evil character so well, not only by speaking 4 different languages, but his intellect. It's so pretty much what I'm trying to say is if you give it time to develop a good script and you find the right actors that portray the perfect character that go coincide with them, you can have a good stuff, but it takes time. But like you said, production costs, all that stuff. It's really, lack of, I guess, creativity, lack of
It was just like rough
time
too.
flex.
I mean, probably like one of the most high profile actors that you have is Carrie Ann Moss, and then killing her off first episode, and you see the flashback to episode 3, episode 7. So that was probably another tough part of it, but just like yeah, I mean, I wish it didn't get the criticism fallback because I think yeah, they could have done more with it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and happy Tom that you finally got to watch it.
Oh yeah.
And I did enjoy rewatching it. I still, find plenty in this show that I think's great. Again, I can't say enough good things about the actors in this. I really think they do a great job with what they had. Um, and I'm also thankful to be moving back on to the Clone Wars next episode.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it was pretty cool with the fight scenes in this one because it was definitely an upgrade from like what we saw with the sequel trilogy. Since I think we can all say it's a bit of a letdown, just how they fought like in like episode 5 and definitely episode 8. I'd say that was pretty dope with the way, you know, the stranger was switching up his lightsaber styles. He had Soul
Yeah.
using force repulse ability. Um, and yeah, I mean, I thought it was well choreographed. Um, and then also just seeing like the Force echoes because I think he had that point when like Soul was just reminiscing about that moment when he killed their mother, then failing to save May, and then you just hear those echoes when Vanessa comes in and she's starting to piece it together too. So I thought it was pretty cool that we got to see some abilities that we haven't seen in other shows or we've seen like them adapted from video games. So I'll give it that. I mean, it was nice to see more of that explored in this show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess we're going back to the Clone Wars and just say over these past few weeks, it's been hard to we got to get back to see where we are in the timeline
So
and continue from there.
where we're gonna so the last episode on the Clone Wars before we took a break was Brain Invaders, or it was something like that, Brain Invaders, because it was Legacy of Terror, Brain Invaders. So uh
Yeah, we just finished that battle of Geonosis on. Yep.
it feels like a lifetime ago that we were back in the Clone Wars. Because I am ready for, like, you know me, I think I said it before last week. Clone Wars Season 4, Return of a Certain Character. Ooh.
Yeah. Clone Wars only gets better and better.
But like you said, it really gives us that time to like see like the characters that we know and love from the movies. We see more development and also getting the new characters as well. And you can see how popular Ahsoka was. Like at first, like people had like, really like Ahsoka as Anakin's Padawan, but as you see more of like the series, yeah, she became like an icon, and they even made the Disney Plus
And I'll
show.
say this. If you love Star Wars, and you're like, if you love you'll love the Clone Wars as it goes on. And the more you're invested in Clone Wars, the final season, I don't know what I've cried harder to, Marley and me, or the way that ended.
Mhm.
Also, we all are also going to have to figure out where in the timeline the next Disney Plus Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew, which is set to come out in December, falls. And we'll have to work that into the rotation. It might be later on, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably Mandalorian timeline, but
Okay, good. So, we'll have time, but something else new and, we'll see. Maybe they do a little better job than they did at the Acolyte. Um, yeah.
well,
All
maybe
right,
we'll
Mike.
kind of. I kind of like this whole concept of like two of us watching it and one not watching it. So I kind of would be open to that idea again for the Skeleton Crew.
I'm
Get someone
I
else's
was gonna
different
say, like,
reaction.
that's not a bad thing because I
Yeah.
did
What, are you volunteering not to watch it, Mike? Because I ain't. I'm watching that stuff
I'll take
immediately.
the bullet for the group. I mean, Tom's not going to do this twice.
So
I'll
Tom's got to
take
watch
one
it
for the team
right
again, I'll say that.
because it's so far away. If it was a little closer, I'd
I
hold
know,
off.
but-
But
Well, maybe we should have our fans sound off in the comments and see who they think which one of us should
Ooh.
not today.
You know,
I think they can try, but I'm telling you right now, I'm watching. I don't wait.
I mean, we'll let the viewers vote, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
I care about democracy, let the people vote, and if I lose again, or if I almost come to
just tell
close
them what to do.
conclusion, I am gonna quote Palpatine, the attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed.
Or you could just say I am the Senate and just yeah, you could do that.
All right, Mike, take it away.
All
Yeah.
right. It's a wrap. Thank you everyone for joining Three Simple Men making their way through the galaxy. Hit that like, comment, subscribe, and come back next week as we return to the Clone Wars. May the Force be with you always.